There is one number that decides whether debt destroys you or quietly makes you rich. And here is the strange part. It is not the size of the loan. It is not the interest rate. Two people can borrow the exact same amount, at the exact same rate, on the exact same day. One of them ends up buried. The other ends up wealthier than when they started. Same loan, same rate, opposite life. The difference is a single number, and by the end of this video, you will not just know what it is. You will know how to run it on your own money. Because debt was never the problem. Using debt like a poor person is the problem. Let me show you the number. Forget everything you have been told about debt for a moment. Strip it all the way down. A loan is just renting money. You borrow an amount, you pay a fee for the time you hold it, you give it back. That fee, the interest, is simply the rent. So there is really only one question that matters. When you take that rented money and put it to work, does it earn more than the rent costs? If the money you borrowed earns 7% and the rent on it is 4%, you just kept the difference, 3% on money that was never even yours. That gap has a name. It is called the spread. And the spread is the entire game. Now here is where it gets powerful. Your return on your own money is the spread, multiplied by how many dollars you control for every single dollar of your own that you put in. Sit with that for a second. The spread is 1/2. The leverage, how many borrowed dollars you stack on top of your own, is the other half. Multiply them together, and you get the only number that actually matters. The return on your own cash. A poor person looks at a loan and thinks, how fast can I pay this off? A rich person looks at the exact same loan and thinks, what is the spread, and how many dollars can I control with it? Same piece of paper, completely different question. And every single trick I am about to show you is just that one equation, with different numbers plugged in. One promise before we start. Some of these 6 you can run today, with the money you already have. Others you cannot. Not yet. And I am going to be honest with you about which is which, the whole way through. I am not going to pretend a billionaire's playbook is something you pull off on a random Tuesday afternoon. But you need to see all of it, because the small versions only make sense once you have seen the big ones. Let us start with the oldest move there is, and one of the most reachable. It is called trade credit, and almost every product business on earth quietly runs on it. Say you want to sell a simple product. Pens. Steady demand, nothing fancy. The poor version is this. You fly to a factory, you buy a whole container of pens with your own cash, you ship them home, and then you try to sell them. The problem? Your money is now frozen inside a mountain of pens for months. The rich version never pays for the pens up front. Suppliers will hand you the product on terms. Net 30, net 60, net 90. You get the goods now and you pay for them in 30, 60, or 90 days. They are lending you the product. The factory is your bank. Now run the one number. You sell the pens before the bill is even due. You collect cash from your customers. You pay the factory, and you keep what is left. So how much of your own money was in this deal? Nothing. 0. You controlled an entire container of inventory with none of your own cash, which means your leverage is not 5-to-1 or 10-to-1. It is effectively infinite because you divided by 0 of your own dollars. The spread per pen was tiny, but tiny multiplied by infinite is enormous. That, right there, is why selling is one of the most valuable skills on the planet. The seller never needed money, they needed terms. And the everyday version of this is all around you. A supplier who gives you 30 days. A deposit a customer pays before you have spent a cent. Same exact mechanism, smaller numbers. We will come back to the most accessible version near the end. Number 2 is real estate, and this is where most channels get the math completely wrong, so let us actually walk it. You find a property that costs $500,000. It is ugly. It is beaten up. Nobody wants it. Which is exactly why it is cheap. You put 20% down. That is $100,000. The bank lends you the other $400,000. Then you spend $50,000 fixing it up. So your own money in the deal right now is $150,000. Here is the move. The property is now fixed, and people actually want to live in it. Its value rises to $700,000. You go back to the bank and refinance, borrowing 80% of the new value. 80% of 700 is 560,000. You use it to pay off the original 400,000 loan, and you walk away with the difference. 160,000 in cash in your pocket. Now run the one number. You put 150 of your own in. You just pulled 160 back out. You got every dollar of your own money back, plus a little extra. And you still own the property with real equity in it that you can rent out. So how much of your own cash is left in the deal at the end? 0. You took it all back, which means your return on your own money is not divided by 150,000 anymore. It is divided by almost nothing. That is why investors are obsessed with this. It was never about the profit on paper. It is that you recycled your entire down payment and kept the asset. But here is the honest catch, because I am not here to hype you. Your new loan is bigger. You went from owing 400 to owing 560. That is a much bigger monthly payment. Refinancing costs you money too. So the whole thing only works if the rent covers that bigger payment, with room to spare. The trick was never the refinance. The trick is finding a property that still makes money after all of it. That is the hard part. And that is the part nobody sells you a neat little course on. This one is reachable, by the way. Not billionaire territory. People with far less than you would guess do exactly this. Now we go up a level. To the strategy hiding behind every headline about a billionaire who somehow pays almost nothing in tax. It is not a secret loophole someone snuck into the system. It is a few ordinary rules, stacked on top of each other. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Step 1. Buy. You own things that go up in value. A business, property, shares of great companies. On paper, you are worth a fortune. But gains on paper are not taxed. In most places, you only owe tax when you actually sell. So rule number 1 is simple. Do not sell. Selling is what creates the tax bill, but you still need money to live on. So step 2. Borrow. Instead of selling, you go to a bank and borrow against what you own. You pledge your assets as collateral and they hand you cash. If your assets are growing faster than that loan costs, the spread is still working for you and you never sold a thing, so you never triggered the tax. You are renting money cheaply to avoid handing over a much bigger slice in tax later. That is the entire point. And the quiet third step, in many countries, is simply time. The wealthy hold these assets for life and pass them on, and a lifetime of growth they never paid tax on gets reset for their heirs. The machine completes itself. Now, I will be straight with you. This one is not for you, not today. You need a serious pile of assets before any bank writes you that kind of credit line. But I needed you to see it, because the small version of this exact idea is coming, and it is one you can run. Before we get there, I have to show you the dark side. Because this is the engine running underneath everything, and it has teeth. When you borrow against your investments, the lender does not hand you $1 for every dollar you own. They give you a slice, and they watch it closely. Here is the danger. If the market drops and your collateral loses value, the lender can demand more cash right now, or they sell your assets out from under you to cover the loan. That is called a margin call. And it is the exact moment leverage stops being a tool and becomes a trap. Because remember, leverage multiplies the one number in both directions. A positive spread gets multiplied into a fortune. A negative one gets multiplied into a disaster. And there is a version of this that is almost pure disaster, so let me show you the guardrail. It is called short selling. It is borrowing in reverse. You borrow a share, you sell it, and you pray it falls so you can buy it back cheaper. When you buy a normal stock, the worst case is it goes to 0, and you lose what you put in. But when you short, there is no ceiling. If the price keeps climbing, your losses keep climbing with it. With no limit, and you still have to buy that share back at whatever it now costs. That is the kind of debt that blows people up. Same equation, but the spread can run infinitely against you. I am showing it to you for one reason, so you can recognize it and stay far away from it. Now back down to earth, to the most run it today move in this entire video. It is the small-scale mirror of the very first one, except instead of a factory lending you pens, a credit card company lends you money at 0%. Real balance transfer offers will give you 0% interest for a year and a half, sometimes close to 2. There is usually a small fee up front, a few percent, and that fee is the only catch, so it is not quite free money. But run the one number. You are renting a chunk of money for around 3% total for almost 2 years. Now here is the honest, boring, powerful version of this. It is not a scheme. It is taking high-interest debt off a card charging you 20-something% and moving it onto one charging you 0. The spread there is enormous. Because you are not trying to earn 3%. You are erasing a 24% interest rate and paying 3 to do it. That is a guaranteed return that almost no investment on earth can match. If you are carrying a balance at a brutal rate right now, you are standing on the wrong side of the one number. You are the factory lending to the bank at 24%. Flip it. This is the same mechanism the importer used. Borrow cheap, put it to work, keep the difference. The only thing standing between you and the pen seller is the size of the number. Which brings us to the sixth, and it is the one every single person watching can move, starting today. Look back at the one number. The spread is what your money earns minus what your money costs. Most people obsess over the earning side. The rich obsess over the cost side, because the cost of your money, your interest rate, is a number you can actually negotiate down. And every point you knock off it goes straight into the spread. This is leverage on top of leverage. The single biggest lever on what your money costs is how trustworthy you look to a lender. The gap between a weak borrowing reputation and an excellent one can be several full percentage points on every loan you take for the rest of your life, on a home, on a car, on a business line. Those points compound into a small fortune over a lifetime. The rich do not have a secret bank the rest of us cannot see. They simply made themselves cheap to lend to. And unlike trying to pick the perfect investment, this one is almost entirely inside your control. So let us pull it all together. I told you some of these you could run yourself, and I pointed them out as we went. Here they are, in order. And here is how you run the one number on your own life, starting today. Start with the cost side, because it is the fastest win, and it costs you nothing. Find out what your money costs right now. Every bit you improve how lenders see you lowers the rent on every dollar you will ever borrow. That is move 6, and it is pure upside. Then look at the most powerful move you can actually reach. If you are carrying high-interest debt right now, you are sitting on the wrong side of the spread. Flip it, move it to a far cheaper rate, and you just turned a negative number into a positive one. That is not theory. That is this week. And the float, if you sell anything or run anything at all, get paid before you have to pay. Take the deposit before you buy the materials. Use the days your supplier gives you. Every time you do, less of your own money sits in the deal, and the one number climbs. Now run it. For every dollar of your own that you put into something, how many dollars are you really controlling? And does what they earn beat what they cost? That is the number. The billionaire with the credit line and you with a balance transfer are doing the exact same arithmetic. The only thing that changes is the size and the direction you point it. So here is the whole video in one sentence. Debt is just rented money, and the only question that ever mattered is whether what you do with it earns more than the rent. Get that one thing on the right side, and debt stops being the thing that owns you. It becomes the thing you own. The poor spend their whole lives paying debt off as fast as they can. The rich ask what the spread is and how many dollars they can control. Same loans, same rates, one number, and now you know it too.